G'day Gear Junkies, Jason here. I recently finished doing some recording and mixing of 4 tracks which I'm putting out, and I thought it might be interesting for you guys for me to be able to explain the different sorts of sounds that I created and how I got those by blending different amplifiers, pedals, guitars, using different pickups on those guitars to create the tones that I did. These tracks represent 4 completely different styles of music and therefore 4 completely different approaches to recording guitar. It's worth pointing out here that I played all the instruments myself. That includes the vocals and any programming that was done. I did all the mixing. The only part of the process that I didn't do was the mastering. What I'm going to do is recreate these tones that I used in these songs, but I'm not going to process them in post. So I'm not going to give them any EQ or compression or anything like that that I would normally do in the mix. Now, some of these tones alone might sound a little bit jarring, but when you hear them in the context of the mix, you'll understand where they kind of fit. So I will play you what these guitar tracks kind of sound like on their own, but I'll also then show you the parts of the song that they actually come from in the mix, and then you'll get a better idea of how it actually sort of fits together. If you want to hear these songs in full, I will leave links in the description below to YouTube Music, and you can also access them on Spotify. But it'd be great to get your opinion and your feedback as always. Before I begin, I want to say a huge thank you to those people who left me messages of support during the impending Cyclone Alfred disaster. I actually recorded this video while I was waiting for the cyclone to arrive, which thankfully for us, it never did. It petered out before it sort of reached the coast. Areas further to the north copped it a lot worse than what we did here. We just got a bit of rain. So we were very, very lucky here. So thank you very much for your support. So the first track I want to talk about is a song called Keep Walking. Now, I originally recorded this song about 8 years ago, but I never released it. But I've used the main riff in several of my pedal demos, and people keep asking me, what is that riff? What song is that from? So I decided to revisit the song and re-record some of the parts. So the main riff was played using an overdrive tone that I got from my Stratocaster on the bridge pickup, which I don't normally use. And I'm going into my Fender Deluxe Reverb, and I'm using a combination of the CS2 compressor and the Zendrive Blackmagic, which I've got on a fairly low gain setting. Now that twanginess from the bridge pickup really helps because it's a very notey riff, so it helps to bring out all of those individual notes. Now I use this same drive tone also for the chorus of the song as well. Leaving my stress behind by the wayside. It's worth pointing out here that I didn't double track that tone, but what I did do was I blended in some of the guide track that I'd made years earlier, and I made that using just an SD1 going into the clean channel of my solo head. It's not a particularly great tone, but having that in the background of the mix just helped to fatten it up a little bit. Now, it would have been easy for me just to multi-track that riff on the guitar and have the bass play the same riff, but I decided that I wanted to make it more polyphonic. So I've got a second guitar that's playing a completely different part, and even the bass is not playing exactly what that riff is doing. It's going like this. Now, the second guitar, I created a slightly arpeggiated line like this. But I thought that didn't sound great on its own with that particular tone. So I grabbed a Boss CE2, I turned the knobs all the way up to get a kind of Leslie sound. And I played that part using that tone. I also use this tone for the chorus. And I also used it for the bridge section as well. So it's worth noting here that I didn't use an amplifier for this tone. I used the Strymon Iridium, and I'm going out of both outputs so I can get a bit of a stereo spread. And when I was doing a bit of a mix of this song, I accidentally left the guide track on, which was using the same chorus pedal but going through an amplifier in mono. And the blending of that track and the second track using the Iridium just sounded more lush. It just sounded bigger. So I actually have blended that into the track as well. So there is a third tone used throughout this song, which I call the choked guitar. And I achieved this tone by taking a graphic equalizer, the Boss GE7, and a Boss CS3, which is the compressor I had at the time. I use a fairly harsh compression sound, and then I roll off all of the lower frequencies and some of the highs, leaving a sort of almost phone sort of sound guitar, and it makes it sound really thin, but makes it great for percussive parts. So in the verses, you'll hear this. In the chorus, I play a melodic part, which is sort of very John Frusciante influence, that sounds like this. I also use this tone for a short section just after the bridge where I use a really lo-fi drum sound, and I use this tone to play the main riff. So the next track is called She Just Wants to Dance. This is a bit of a different one for me. I don't usually write music in this style, but I was listening to a bit of Tears for Fears, and I really like their version of synth pop with rock elements in there as well. I wrote this riff and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. If I played it like a traditional riff, it would have sounded like this. So I did a fair bit of experimenting with this riff till I came up with a sound that I liked. So I achieved this tone by using the neck pickup on my Telecaster, going into the Elastic Mattress, which is a flanger. It's based on the EHX Electric Mistress. From there into the Boss CS2 compressor sustainer. Then from there into the Strymon Timeline, which I've got set to an analog style delay, and then from there into the Strymon Big Sky, which I've got set on a Hall reverb, which goes for about 1.5 seconds or something like that. And then from there, it goes into two different amps. So I've got the Fender Deluxe Reverb and the Vox AC30. The reason I'm using two different amps is because the blending of the two of them really fills out the sound. So this is the tone. So just through the AC30 alone, it sounds like this. Okay, it doesn't have a lot of bottom end, and it's got that really prickly, chimey top end. And then just through the Fender, it sounds like this. But by using both amps, I think that it fills out more of the frequency spectrum. when I recorded this song, I didn't think that the guitar had enough impact on its own, so I reinforced the guitar part with a synth playing the same line, and I think that the synth did a really good job in filling out that sound, to the point now where you can't really hear the guitar that well in the mix, but I assure you it's there. When I mute it in the mix, it makes a bit of a difference. So the guitar is there, but it's not as prominent as the synth is for much of the song. So there is a rhythm part underneath that, which uses a similar tone minus the flanger and delay, but I've added the Boss DC2W on setting number 4. I'm still running stereo into both amps, and I've changed to the bridge pickup. So I added a few little bits into the verses of this song using this tone. But I think I replaced that with a keyboard doing that instead, and I think that that suited the song a bit more than the guitar doing it.
As she struggles through the working week, she dreams of someplace new, somewhere where the bass is soft and plays her favorite tunes.
So the last couple of tones I have for this song are in the solo section. The solo section's in 2 parts. So part 1 is a bit more of a melodic break, and then part 2 is more of a traditional solo. So for the melodic part, I'm on the neck pickup. I'm using the same delay and reverb, except I've just turned up the reverb time to about 1.5 or 2 seconds. And I'm using the TS-808 just for this drive part. And I thicken that up with a synth playing the same part as well. You know, it just sort of fit the aesthetic of the song. What I've done for the second half of the solo is I switch to my bridge pickup and I kick on the PastafX camber drive. Now, normally the camber drive is my bass tone here. I have the TS-808 running in front of it kind of as a boost. Now, normally I would have used my bass tone and then kicked on the boost for the solo, but I just found for that particular melodic part, it sounded better with the tube screamer rather than the camber. But when I kick on the camber drive, it really does take the tone to the next level. This next song is an older one. It's a reggae influenced song called Holes in My Pockets, which I wrote during lockdown on this guitar. So my cork guitar here was in the shop just prior to lockdown, and my repairer made sure that he got it back to me just in time. What he was doing was replacing the pickups. So I had the Seymour Duncan hot rodded set installed on this guitar, and I was really enjoying the split neck position here. So I'm on the neck pickup, which is split into a single coil. Now the tuning of this guitar is a bit deeper, so I'm going to play this, it's supposed to be in A flat, but I'm playing it on the 6th fret.
I got holes in my pockets, can't keep any money. No sooner do I have it than I don't have any, 'cause I spend it all on gambling, women and booze.
Now I got that tone by using the CS2 compressor going into the Moore Blues Crab. This was prior to me owning a Blues Breaker, which I would get only a few weeks later, and that's going into my Fender Deluxe Reverb. So to thicken up this rhythm track a bit, what I did was, rather than double track it, I plugged in my full tone Deja Vibe stereo, and I'm going stereo out of that into the Strymon Iridium. And that gives this beautiful sort of throbbing sound. I played a simplified version of the main rhythm part, but every now and then too I hold chords and you get this beautiful throbbing, which works really well with this track. All of the lead guitar parts for this song were played using my Strat on the neck pickup. Now, there were two main tones that I used, one for all of the little bits in between the vocal parts and towards the end of the song, and then a completely separate tone for the solo. So just for all the little lead break parts, I'm using the CS2 compressor, which is basically always on during this song, and my recently acquired, at the time, Blues Breaker, and that's going into the Strymon Big Sky.
I got holes in my pockets. I got holes in my pockets. I got holes in my pockets.
For me, that's a really beautiful glassy tone that really cuts through all of that thick bass. Now, for the solo part of the song, I kick on the Tube Screamer in front of the Blues Breaker, and I add analog delay. So the last track in this batch of songs is called Lost Our Way. This is the heaviest out of all of these songs. And unfortunately, when I got the master back, I was dissatisfied with it. There was a lack of bottom end. Basically, the bass drum has disappeared from the mix as a result. So I'm going to have to revisit the mix and then get it remastered, which is unfortunate because I think some of my best vocal work was on this song. For the recording of this track, I took a lot of inspiration from Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains. He used to work with a producer called Dave Jerden, and together they came up with some really great hard rock tones. Dave Jerden was a big fan of blending amplifiers together and finding the strengths of one and marrying it with the strengths of another amplifier. So I took this as inspiration, and what I've done is I've blended my Mesa Solo Head with my Marshall DSL-40. The idea is that the solo head is going to provide all of the oomph, all of the guts of this tone, and the Marshall DSL-40 is going to provide all the sizzle on top, or that sort of present upper mids that you get from a Marshall. So the guitar tone is a combination of both amps. I'm using my PRS Custom 24, which is tuned down to D standard. And I use this for the left-hand guitars, and then on the right-hand side of the mix, I use my Cort M600. such a big sound in the room, it almost sounds like it's being double tracked. So if I was to play each of these amplifiers on their own, this is what it would sound like. So this is the Marshall on its own. And this is the solo head on its own. And here's both amps together. So those were my main guitar tracks that were used for the chorus and for the main riff of the song. But there was one other guitar track that I used, and this one was a bit strange. So I used my standard Telecaster going into my Fender Deluxe Reverb, and then I'm using a combination of my Blues Breaker and Zendrive pedals. And it's not a particularly high gain tone, it's a little bit mid-rangey, it's totally different to that amp tone that I got. And I used this sound for the verse. Now, I did this on purpose to thin out the mix a little bit in the verse, because by doing that, it makes those big guitars really stand out more, and it's more of a gut punch when they come in. It's like if you want to give something scale, put something small in the picture. And that's what I did here, was I took a guitar tone that was a lot thinner, and I used that in the verses to make the chorus guitars sound bigger.
No control to choose our path, to leave this hole, and fire is the only antidote to cure outside, to warm our bones. And we hold our arms out in the dark to find our way.
So those were the tracks. I really want to know what you guys think. If you've got any suggestions or ideas that you think I could have implemented, please leave them below, because I'm always interested to hear what you have to say. I will get that last song, Lost Our Way, remixed and mastered and put up as soon as possible. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you want to support this channel, you can go to the Middle Aged Gear Junkie store and buy some merchandise, or you can support me on Patreon. Other than that, my name is Jason. Have a great day. See you later.